In 1922, deep in the Bavarian forest of Germany, there stood a secluded farmhouse called Hinterkaifeck. It was a place that felt cut off from the rest of the world, isolated by dense woods, a perfect location for the Gruber family to live in peace, or so they thought. The family had lived there for years, tending to their farm, keeping mostly to themselves. But something wasn't right. It all began with strange noises in the attic. One night, Andreas Gruber, the head of the family, had heard footsteps above him, a soft, deliberate tread. He believed it was simply an animal or a part of the house settling, but the sound continued night after night. He even checked the attic for any signs of intruders, but he found nothing. Then there were the strange footprints in the snow, leading from the woods to the farmhouse, and back again. They appeared one morning, deep, imprinted in the freshly fallen snow. The tracks led right to the door of the house, and then, disappeared. Andreas didn't believe in ghosts. But something was out there. He told his wife, but she just brushed it off. The family continued their daily life, but the unsettling feeling never went away. The next odd thing that happened was far more disturbing. Their keys were gone. One morning, Andreas found the keys to the farmhouse missing. He couldn't find them anywhere, and when he finally discovered them, they were in a completely different spot than where they'd been left the night before. It felt like someone had been inside their home without them knowing, but every time they checked, they found no signs of forced entry. Still, life went on. The Grubers tried to continue as normal, but the strange occurrences kept multiplying. Their house was becoming a place of constant tension. Then, in March 1922, tragedy struck. One by one, each member of the family was found brutally murdered, slaughtered with a pickaxe. Andreas Gruber, his wife, their daughter, and their 2 grandchildren were all killed in their own home. The brutality of the killings was incomprehensible, and worse yet, there were no signs of forced entry. The police found the bodies in the house days later. But the most terrifying part? The murderer didn't leave the house after the crime. The killer stayed in the house for days, sleeping in the Gruber's bed, eating their food, and living in the farmhouse with the corpses of the family. They found evidence that someone had been inside, footprints in the dust, signs of food being eaten, and even a small fire that had been lit in the stove. There were no signs of struggle, no robbery, and the murderer had taken the time to hide the bodies, making it seem as though the family was still alive, just lying in their beds. The house had become a tomb, with the killer hiding within the very walls. What made the case even more chilling was that, despite the murders, there were sightings of a figure in the days after the killings. People who lived nearby claimed they saw someone watching the house from the woods. Some even said they heard noises coming from inside the house. Noises that could only have been made by someone living there, someone still inside. It was as if the killer had become one with the house, hiding in plain sight, knowing that no one would suspect that the place was already a grave. The authorities investigated the crime thoroughly, but the murderer was never found. The family's deaths remain one of Germany's most horrifying unsolved mysteries. In the years that followed, the farmhouse at Hinterkaifeck was abandoned. Locals claimed to have seen strange things. Lights flickering in the windows at night, strange shadows passing by, and the faint sound of footsteps on the stairs. Some say it's the spirits of the Gruber family, still haunting the house, seeking justice. Others believe the murderer never left, that they still roam the woods, a ghost in the shadows. And to this day, no one knows for sure who killed the Grubers, or why. The shadow of the Hinterkaifeck murders continues to linger, a terrifying mystery that no one can seem to unravel. This story is based on the true, unsolved murders at Hinterkaifeck, one of the most mysterious and terrifying true crime cases in history. The chilling part of the story, about the killer living in the house after the murders, is what makes it so unsettling. The idea that someone could live in a house with the bodies of a family for days, unnoticed, is truly horrifying.